at the very first finish line of the Tri-State Trek while his sister was living with ALS. And even after losing her in 2009, hopefully you've identified yourself by now. I can't find you. He's continued to be a big part of this trek every single year. And believe me, Phil Gormley, this is not all you do, and we know that. Phil was a founding member of Mac Angels, which enhances the lives of people who live with ALS. And every year he engages the Westchester County community to do Claire's Climb in honor of his sister, Claire. He also takes some of the best selfies and gives some of the best hugs of the ALS community. Phil, I don't know where you are, but in Claire's memory and with our gratitude, please come up and accept this award.
Thank you so much, Carol. I'm beyond humbled, and I appreciate it. 20 years ago, I had the honor of watching two of my buddies finish the Tri-State Trek for Claire, and I was at the finish line with her. And I was hooked ever since. And it's great to be part of this team, and I really appreciate this honor. It means so much to me. So I just want to let everyone out here in the audience know that you're all a bunch of Fockers. You may have heard that, but it's friends of Claire, and she's always with us, and we always appreciate it. So many of you have heard this, but here's an angel, and one wing is one child's hand, the other wing is the other child's hand. The bottom is her son's foot, and the bald head is her husband Bill, and the halo is Claire. Thank you very much, Carol. I appreciate it.
At about the same time we lost Claire, another incredible woman was being diagnosed with ALS. And it's because of her inspiration, her role as a mother and wife, that the next recipients of the Foster Sailing Spirit Award is coupled into a family affair with this year's Starry Porter Outstanding Crew Award. Together and cumulatively, Mary Lou Watkins' family has participated in over 33 years worth of the Tri-State Trek. Only for the first 2 years was Mary Lou still with us, but they came back every single year. They truly are the spirit of Mary Lou. First, you all might want to thank Bob Watkins because he's been serving you lunch for 10 years. Thank you, Bob. And for those of us from the Trek and from ALS TDI, Bob, we'd like to thank you not only for lunch, but for being the kind of husband and dad that supports your kids and your extended Tri-State Trek family. Lindsay, Matt, all of you have stayed in the game. In some cases, traveling by boat and plane and around the country to get here, while all year creating the enthusiasm that culminates in these 3 days. It's really meaningful to this family. So if you'd hold your applause for a second till all 3 names are announced. as the further winners of the Foster Sailing Spirit and Inspiration Award for this year are Lindsay and Matt Watkins, and the winner of the 2022 Starry Porter Outstanding Crew Award is their dad, Bob Watkins. If you'd come up. Okay, I think we're going right to it, right? Many of you are familiar with what we call the open mic night. Doesn't necessarily involve singing, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to. We invite anyone to come up to the mic, share the story of why they are here, who they are fighting for, any tidbits they'd like to, introduce themselves to the community, and just spend a couple of minutes talking about it all. So anyone who would like to spend a couple of minutes at the mic to share their story, please come on up over here. That would be great. And I'm going to kick it off. Excuse me. Most of you know Andy Rubenstein as the co-captain of Team Follow Me. Thank you, Legattis, for keeping a tradition alive this year. Andy is that guy, as he has said, who brings the Trek flag with everybody's names on it. Sorry, people are texting me, so I need to undo that. He rides the flag up each year from the finish line back up to Boston, and then would ride back down. Like, that's crazy. And he would document it the whole way through so that we could all see the flag with all of the names on it of people with ALS, those that are facing the battle today, and some that we have lost. For those of us who have been part of this event for a long time, it's meant an awful lot, and it created a lot of excitement as we would see that flag and Andy get closer and closer. He also rivals Phil for the hugs, I have to say. Andy, I hope that you are watching right now. Many of you may or may not know that Andy, sorry, if anybody here is texting me, there we go. Andy is not here this year because he is fighting cancer, and he is in the hospital tonight, and boy, did he want to be here, but he sent me something to read, so here goes. Dear Trek family, we're brokenhearted to not be with you on this year's Trek. We, Rich Eunice, who I met by chance on the Trek some 16 years ago, became one of my closest friends and riding partners, and myself, Andy Rubenstein, the leader of Team Follow Me. Rich and Andy are those guys you know as those guys. Follow Me was the nickname given to my dad by some dear friends years ago. My dad passed from ALS 20 years ago after a hard-fought battle for 4 years. I was fortunate to be by his side, and I promised him I would continue to fight this disease. Like many of you, I'd never ridden a bike for more than a few miles when I first signed up, but there I was, a one-man team, and left with 70 new Trek friends. All of those 70 I miss dearly, and all of you. TDI has given me so much more than a method to keep my promise. It has given me an extended family. We have had incredible experiences on the Tri-State Trek, lifelong memories that I will treasure for life. Rich and I are known as those guys because we owned the honor of cycling up from Greenwich to the start in Boston. We carried with us the flag, and we stopped along the way to spread the message. About a year ago, Rich was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I originally thought we would be able to cheer and see everybody, but as I was recovering from spinal fusion surgery, I was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer. Our plans came to a complete crash. And as I reread this, it all sounds unbelievable. Rich and I were not the best fundraisers, we were not the fastest riders or the best climbers, but we were committed to elevate the cause because we believe in all of you and in ALS TDI. We experienced this event as far more than a ride, more like a family reunion with bikes. We believe in the families and people with ALS, and we are inspired by all of you. Please take a moment to COVIDly safe, hug your families, and know that you are making a difference. Hugs from us to all of you. Andy. While others are summoning the courage, summon the courage, you guys. Fernando, do you want to join me up here? Are you here? Where are you?
Thank you, Carol. Thanks everybody for being here. I guess I've done 10 treks according to the certificate that I got. It might be more than that. I'm not really sure. I stopped keeping count. And many of those years I've come up to speak at the open mic, not all years, but many of them. And 10 years ago, I was not CEO or Chief Scientific Officer at ALS TDI. I was a guy in a lab doing research. And I think at some point I was supposed to have become a polished public speaker in the past 10 years, but that hasn't happened. So I apologize for that. The Tri-State Trek for me, it's a stark reminder of our mission and how hard it is and how important it is to so many people in the ALS community. And it's also a stark reminder of how we as an organization have fallen short. We have not delivered cures yet. We have not delivered the effective treatments yet. So I spoke to you on Thursday night and I told you about the progress, and it is real. The progress is real. We've made major strides thanks to all of you in understanding the disease and discovering therapeutic targets, discovering and inventing new treatments and getting those into clinical trial. But still, the reality for a person diagnosed with ALS today is that they don't have the effective treatments yet. And I own that failure, and I will do my best to change it, to change the world in a way that so that people with ALS are no longer told that they don't have options, that they'll have many options available to them, that there will be treatments, and that they will live a long and promising and a wonderful life, meaningful, with high quality of life with their family and friends. And I know that I'll be able to do my part in that because I have an amazing team that everybody plays their part, pulling in the same direction. A lot of them are here today. Everybody from TDI, please stand up or wave. I just want to acknowledge all of you. I could not be prouder of the people who we've assembled at ALS TDI. Their character and their talent and their drive is incredible. And I need to live up to them, and it's awesome. And I also want to thank all of you, the community that supports us, that keeps us going, that makes everything that we do possible. Thank you. Together, we will end ALS, and we'll do it as quickly as we can. Thanks. Now, somebody follow me, please. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it. I'm Tim Rooney. I'm part of Team Banning Crush ALS, and I'm from Chicago. And my story that brought me here is that we have a familial connection to ALS, and my mother, brother, and aunt died of it. And it's genetic in the family, and we have C9orf72. And I wouldn't be here today without the invitation of my brother-in-law, Andy Martin. And I think a lot of us find our way here by invitation from someone else. Some of us come sporadically too. You might find an interesting ride, but I think often it's like someone reaching out to us saying, like, you can do this with us. But I'm eternally grateful for my girlfriend, Maura McNulty. I've invited so many people. She's the first one that accepted the invitation. Way to go, Maura. And we're working towards a cure, and you guys are working day and night, and it kind of goes unsung. But I just want to say thank you to everyone on staff at ALS TDI for all the work that you're doing. And it really means a lot to people like from my world, where it's a real threat, to know that people are working hard through the pandemic, making sure that the mice live through the night, and all the things that you did during COVID and years before and for the years to come. It takes a large community to make things happen. I also want to give a special shout out to all the people that support riders. A lot of people say over the weekend, like, you guys are doing the real work because you're riding, but there's no support like an ALS TDI tri-state trek. One of my teammates said that they gained weight on this ride. Might be the only place they've ever gained weight on the ride. And we wouldn't be here without you, the emergency teams, like the people staffing in the morning, getting up before any of the riders for like first rest stop. And I just know that, it goes unsung. As a rider, I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I bring up like names this morning. I think it was Bob was at the top of the nasty hill. And I told him, when I talk about him, it makes me want to cry, because he's cheering me on and he's getting me up the hill, and he thinks he's not doing anything. But it truly is a global community for all of us to be together working towards an end for ALS. And we couldn't do it without everyone working together. So I just want to say thank you very much, and love all the work that you're doing. And it's the greatest adventure I've been on. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Bob Higgins, and I'm also on Team Bandon. A couple of years ago, I was the first speaker, and I mentioned that the last time I had led off was I was 15 years old and playing third base. I have never batted cleanup in my entire life. And tonight, I'm batting cleanup. I got an award last night for being in third place for fundraising. It's not my award. It's the award of the more than 100 donors that I have. And I hope some of them are watching tonight. They pray for you. They support us. I hear from them all year round. These people love you and they love what you're doing. And I hope that some of them are watching tonight, because I want them to know how grateful we are for their support. And they make this, they are our tailwind. They push me when I can't go any further. So if any of you are watching, thank you. I have nicknamed them Team Higgs, and They are my tailwind. And speaking of prayer, I am of a vanishing breed. It's called practicing Catholics. And every year on this Saturday, we race in to New Haven so that I can get to church. It used to be at 5 o'clock right across the street, but they closed that church. So now it's 4:30 and it's about 5 miles away from here. But today, David Voriakos pushed me, knowing that I wanted to get to church. And as I was leaving for church, there was Maura McNulty ready to go with me. So the two of us, but we didn't have transportation. So thankfully, Linda Sterling lent us her I'm not kidding, brand new vehicle. And we were still in our riding gear, so we smelled terrible. But she let us use her brand new vehicle so that we could get to church, and we made it. So David, thank you. In past years, it's been Andy Foster, it's been others. And early this morning, it was Linda and Barbara who helped us get to the ferry so that we could catch the earlier ferry and get across and make it here. So I've given a shout out to a lot of people. I love being on Team Bannon, but there's one special shout out that I've saved for the end. This year on 2/22/22, I turned 70 years old. And my daughter, on my birthday card, wrote, "I'm going to crew for you." She's here tonight. A big shout out to Erin Higgins. She has shared this experience with me. I write a email every night of the trek to my donors. Now 100 of them received this. Erin's been a donor since my first year, eight years ago. She's read everything I've ever written about the trek. She knows all about it. She knows all you people by name. Now she has faces to put with those names. She's here. This is the most meaningful trek I've ever been at, and I have only her to thank. So God bless you, dear. And lastly, I prayed for all of you at church today. And I want you to know, no matter what your relationship is with God, you are doing his work right here and right now.
I will never forget, I talked to Bob a lot throughout the year. And we've become friends, as so many of us have through this. But there was this one Sunday morning at like 10 a.m. My phone says Bob Higgins. And I'm like, is this a butt dial? The heck is this? So I answer the phone, and he told the story that he just told you. He wanted me to know, as he and his family gathered in Key West to celebrate his 70th birthday, that he had received the most meaningful birthday gift he had ever gotten. That the most meaningful thing to him was that his daughter was going to get to see what this was. And we were introduced, and immediately, as you might imagine, Erin's attitude was, what do you want me to do? I'll do whatever it is. So she's been checking you in, making sure you're not under a bus somewhere on the route for the last couple of days. She'll do it again tomorrow, and she'll do it while experiencing it with her dad. Pretty cool that we get to be a part of that.
I don't usually walk. Is it on? Yeah. I don't usually walk this way. I'm just incredibly tired today. The 3-year lag, so to speak, I didn't keep up the training or anything like that. And then like a month ago, 2 months ago, I started riding. But today reminded me of the abuse that I've given my body over the last 73 years. and skydiving and falling off my bike. If you look at my shoulders, this one is in an inch further than that one. Fell off my bike, crushed my helmet. But I think where it all started, I have a twin brother, and that upped the ante. It was one of those things. Well, you can't do that, and so yes, I can. And he said the same thing to me. And my father was convinced that we coined the phrase "hold my beer," so we got that through. So where do we start? It was a long. Well, this is my 12th trek, and my friend Frank DeGeorge passed away on May 11th, 2011, and I needed to do something. So I Googled what you do, what fundraisers are there, and Tri-State Trek came up first. So I looked into that, and here I am. The first year was murder. It was 104 degrees, and I wasn't ready for that one either. But it was obvious. It got into my heart. It was something. I loved Frank, and I saw what he went through, and there's nothing I wouldn't have done for him. And this means something to me to do this mile after mile after mile. So I'll continue to do it as long as I can. And over the years, Facebook can be the worst thing in the world, or it could be a good thing. And I would advertise or post the trek on my wall, and people started responding like, "Oh, I don't know you, but I know a friend of yours, and my cousin passed from ALS," and it went on and on and on like that. And over the years, I've made incredible friends, people I never would have known. There's a family out in Wyoming, whose father, actually yesterday was his birthday. He would have been 61. He passed 5 years ago. The Harts. And I spent a lot of time in Manhattan, just sightseeing and things like that. And Mona was way down in South Jersey from Wyoming to visit relatives. She made a point of coming up to Manhattan just to have lunch with me. We laughed and we cried and we did a whole bunch of things. But it's part of me. It's part of my soul. And over the years, I've showed you this before. This is not all the people who have asked. These are friends of mine, friends of friends, friends of my cousins, people I've met. One of my former students, who is actually now 50, her cousin is on here. So I put the names. There are very few warriors on here. Most of them have passed. And it's mostly to honor them and honor their memory. But it meant so much. This tiny little print on here meant so much to those families that they just were overwhelmed. There are two new ones on here. Vince, Glynis's dear husband, and Gary, my former student's cousin. So, as Bob said, over the years, even through the 3-month hiatus, I have about 32 consistent donors, and every year they actually jack it up a little bit. So I did the virtual trek 2 years ago, and they didn't care, and they didn't even care if I did the mileage, which I did, but I spread it out. I can't ride long distances by myself. I need somebody to push me. But I did it over quite a few days. They donated. Last year, we did the 100-mile out and back. They didn't care. They kept donating, and it's just amazing. But as I said, the trek got into my heart pretty quickly, but the ALS warriors got into my soul, and I'm kind of hurting here today because I haven't seen them in 3 years, and there are some of them that I'll never see. So that's why I ride, and we got to keep this going. And someday I want to have a jersey where of survivors, people who have beat this horrific disease. And I didn't want to put the new names on here because it wouldn't have looked right. It would have been all smashed in. So I'm going to get another jersey with smaller print, and that makes me sad, that I have to put these names on here, that they're still coming. But again, there will be a day. I know there will be a day when it's going to be the other way around. It's going to be reversed. So, oh, and Team America, where are you? There's only that's it over there, that little bit of a corner. There's like 30 of us, some right, and 6 of us came in. But you know what it is? Life got in the way. We have new babies, good things, you know. So they're hopefully they'll be back. Thank you.
Okay. You can lead a horse to water.
Thank you, Colette. She is the horse trainer. So if he misbehaves, it's her fault. This is a heavy subject for me, as it is, I'm sure, for most of you. So I was hoping to lighten the mood a little bit. But let me start. I'm Lori Larson Heller, and I'm a virgin. Okay, it's my first year at the track, is what I mean. However, I did sleep with Jim and John Howie on night number 1. I've heard what happens at the track stays at the track. So, anyway, I was introduced to ALS in September of 2018 when my husband was diagnosed with ALS. He lasted a little over 18 months and passed away in May of 2020. And his progression was so fast that I didn't really have time to learn much about ALS or to. I quit working. I was in commercial real estate for 35 plus years in Minneapolis, and I quit working the day he was diagnosed because I wanted to be his caregiver. And I always thought I would go back into my career when he passed away. And after I got through the service, first of all, losing someone during COVID, my heart goes out to all of the rest of you that this happened to, because all those things you think of people coming by to see you and bring food and offer condolences and be able to have a service, and it just added so much to the grief. But I still consider myself very fortunate. I, for some reason, chose not to go back into commercial real estate, and I just knew that I wanted to not run away from this disease, but run towards it. I did my research, and I just started making call after call. I called Team Gleason, and then I'd called IMALS, and I talked to Carol at ALS TDI. And I mean, I can go through a whole list of people, but at the end of the day, there was just something about TDI that spoke to me. And a big part of it was I was so used to the corporate world and being responsible to shareholders or investors, and having to do things that sometimes you thought maybe weren't the right thing, but you had to do them to keep the investors happy. And the fact that these guys are a nonprofit they answer to us, and it's so true. I've managed to raise a little bit of money over the last year and a half. And I give it to TDI because I can talk directly to Carol, to Fernando, to any of these guys, to Alan, if we want to talk about PMP, and to be able to say what's important to me and understand what they're really doing. So I want to know what my money is doing and where it's going. And so I just can't say enough, but this is my first trek. Again, I'm still fairly fresh in this. I feel like an idiot because you all have been here for like 20 years. So I'm trying to get a little more comfortable, but yeah, you guys, you like my outfit, right? But anyway, I will just say my last thing is that you all know grief as well as I do, and literally my husband was the love of my life, and I was dwelling on that and dwelling on the loss, and I finally learned to flip my script. And I now, instead of saying, I wish you were here, why did it have to be him, why us, why am I alone, I've learned to thank God for ever giving him to me. And I have all of those memories, and I've found this wonderful family. I have my own family who's absolutely wonderful, but this has become family to me. There isn't a person I meet in this ALS world who doesn't touch my heart. And so I do everything I can to volunteer, to raise money, whatever. And I look forward to coming to this for many, many years to come. Hopefully not in this outfit, by the way.
Well, if it's not in that outfit, you got to better it. You can't go down. So can't wait to see you next year. Megan, are you coming up?
Hi, everyone. For those of you that I have not had a chance to speak to personally, I am Megan Mania. Yes, that is my last name. It's not just for Trek, it's legally my last name. And I wanted to come up tonight to just let you know on behalf of Team Cookie. So we see these wonderful women in their white hats with their chocolate chip cookies. So Team Cookie is spearheaded by two sisters, Molly and Kate, who unfortunately lost their mother to ALS. And in their mother's honor, she was deemed Cookie by her grandchildren. So what Team Cookie has done with the help of Molly's husband, who owns and operates Nighthawk's Kitchen up in Freeport, Maine, they have made all of you chocolate chip cookies. And they have milk, in case you would like milk and cookies in honor of their mother, Lynn, who passed from ALS. And please help yourselves. I'm just trying to lighten the mood because we do all talk about sad things, but please help yourselves to some cookies. There are more in the box too. Don't be shy. Take whatever's on the table. Take some milk. Take it to your dorm tonight for a snack. But it's true, kind of like what Lori said, we're all dealing with our grief in different ways. And I personally think the best way is a chocolate chip cookie. So please, by all means, and my own personal connection, I'm not just an employee at ALS TDI. This is my third trek in honor of my dad, James. You'll see his mile marker. If you didn't notice it today at Rest Stop 1, Jimmy Prosser. So by all means, we are here with you. I'm not just working for ALS TDI, I'm working for all of us who have lost someone. So please enjoy the cookies. I know I'll be eating my feelings in a minute.
Thank you, Team Cookie. Okay, do I see a horse trainer on her way up? Giddy up.
Hello, everybody. You're all just beautiful, aren't you? Every single one of you. My name is Colette O'Neill, and I'm here to just to bring somebody's name into this crowd because I never want any of us to forget her. And she happens to be Sarah Coglianese. And she died just a few days after her 40th birthday in San Francisco in 2018. If any of you, I don't know, put your hands up if you know her, like if you have heard of her. Keep the hands coming, because if you haven't, I really need you to go back home and Google Sarah Coglianese and read everything she's ever written about this disease and how she lived with it and how her family dealt with it. And she was as raw and as transparent as you'll ever get. And her writing just really, it's inspiration, and no matter what way you look at it. So she raised a lot of money for ALS TDI until she couldn't do that anymore. And she realized that she wasn't going to live for what she wanted to happen. And it wasn't just going to happen in time for her. And she had to turn her fundraising efforts, like so many families, to her own care and to the care of her family. And so even when she couldn't really put her efforts into ALS TDI, like that wasn't the end of connecting with Sarah Coglianese. You just stayed in touch with her. And it got to a point where, as her disease progressed, I would fly out to San Francisco every 6 weeks and just spend the weekend with her and her daughter, Scarlett, and just hang out, give her as much rosé as she wanted, feed her gluten-free cheesecake, and just make the most offensive jokes you'll ever hear. And it was just a highlight. I mean, I didn't like leaving my family every 6 weeks, but they completely understood and they were completely bought in and just invested in this journey. And they met her family and obviously fell in love with them too. But anyway, I'm rambling. When she was just maybe a couple of months away from the next chapter, I asked her out straight, because there was never any kind of holding back with her. I asked her out straight, Sarah, how is this going to go? How is this going to unfold? What do you want me to do? And she's like, well, if you could be the person to not cry for Scarlett, that would be amazing. And I was like, fuck you. That is way bigger a request than I had in mind for this. And I failed miserably at it anyway. It was an absolute disaster. But I asked her, how is this going to go? What is your vision for this? And she said, I just have this vision in my mind that I'm going to be surrounded by really close family, and someone's going to be reading Bob Dylan lyrics to me, and I'm going to be really comfortable, and this is how it's going to happen, very intimate. And I said, okay, so is someone going to text me? Because like, I want to know. She's like, well, yeah, now it's getting weird. And so it's like, okay, I just want to know how this goes. I just want to know how it goes. So she turned 40 just a few days before my own birthday. I'm older than her, but we were about like a week apart, date-wise. And I was going out to San Francisco to celebrate her birthday with her. And a couple of days before I flew, I got a message from her dad that she had taken a turn. And that's just kind of a message. You're just like, okay, this is it. Like, get ready. And he said, Sarah just wants you to come, like, but you need to be prepared. It's like, I am so not prepared. And in my mind, every time, since I think Sarah told me about what she wanted in terms of this picture, like for the next few months, I really just like had that vision in my mind, like her bedroom and the people and Bob Dylan, and that like I was going to be in Boston and get this message that it had happened. And so when I flew out, it was a weekend and I said goodbye to her on Friday night. And I told the family, you know what? I am here. Like I'm staying at this hotel. If you need toilet paper, text me. If you need coffee, text me. If you need a ride, text me. They were like, no, like you need to stay. You need to stay here. And so all weekend I was with her family. Like I was part of that group. And she died and I was there. And it was the greatest gift, I think, that anyone actually has ever given me, because I was humbled, I think, beyond belief that the universe had worked in such a way that it had put me there, and I needed that to happen. So that's all really. I just want to share that story because it really has been one of the greatest gifts in my life, honestly. And I love her dearly, and there isn't a day. There really isn't a day. I'm so sorry to bring us down after the horse. I didn't really come here at all with that intention, but I just wanted to bring her name back into this community because she is still a huge part of it. And lastly, I'll just share, like, Sarah's command of the English language was just beyond. She was just a gifted writer. And we would often talk about words. And I texted her one day, what's your favorite word? I had never asked her that question. Because my intent was to tattoo it on my arm here. And I'm thinking, like, oh my God, she's going to come back with something profound. Like, I'm not going to understand it. It's going to have 50 syllables. It's going to be like metamorphosis or photosynthesis, or I just wasn't sure, but I knew it was going to be like profound. So she wrote back pretty much right away with the word snacks. And I was like, snacks? Yeah, I just love the S and the N together and the C and the K together. And I absolutely love snacks, as you know. And I was like, yeah, great. This is going to be the tattoo. So got the tattoo a couple of weeks later, whatever. And, you know, the artist was like, what's this about? Like, so I had to tell him. And he was like, that's a good story. So I love it because it has her initials, and I have a dot under each of those initials, S and C. And that was my attempt at kind of closing this up in a funny way, but it's not as funny as the horse. Thanks.
Does anyone else want to join us up here? Okay, well then I encourage you to tell those stories to each other over your next drink, over your chocolate chip cookies and milk. Keep those stories going. Bobby Forster, I adore you. Thank you for being here. For Bobby. Of course, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for caring to be here. Thank you for your incredible mileage thus far and again tomorrow. Thank you for doing everything you have done all year long with your donors, your networks, your own wallets to help us accelerate a treatment for ALS. From all of us at ALS TDI, thank you.
What I feel, can't say. My love is there for you anytime of day. It's all love that you need. And I've tried my best to make everything succeed. Tell me why it's not life that you love. Tell me who am I that you by my side. I know tried my best today. Everything took